Hey y'all, hey, it is Aurelia again, and tonight we are going to, or today, because by the time y'all listen to this, it'll probably be daytime, but I'm recording at night, so today, I'm gonna tell y'all how I almost died. So go ahead and get your cups because I'm about to spill the tea. So before I go ahead and get into that, I'm gonna tell you about my weekend, y'all, because my son was away and there was an event and I got super cute. And yeah, I went to this thing called a Delight Night and it was super cute. It was like a panel discussion with singles and married folk just getting into like dating, attraction, talking about like their walk with the Lord, like how they dealt with trauma, and then people who were married and, their love story and all of that. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I feel like okay. I think that people will say they want to be totally and completely healed before going into another relationship. And I'm going to be honest because I don't think people think about this, is I don't think that you will ever be 100% healed. And I say that because you can be in a good place. You go through the therapy, the deliverance, you're praying, and then one day you have a memory and you're triggered, and then you have to go through the forgiving process again. And so I think it's important to give yourself grace in that area. And then when you are with someone, that person loves God so much that they love you enough to be able to deal with the shenanigans. Because baby, I know women, we just gonna bring the shenanigans all the time. It doesn't matter. And so like with me, I know that a trigger for me is when a man puts his phone upside down. And I remember back in the day when I was dating somebody, he's going to be nameless. He would always put his phone upside down because he was getting texts from women and he was cheating. And so fast forward years later, I let it be known to the next guy that I was dating, that this could be a trigger and that you haven't given me a reason, but that is a trigger, that it would happen. And I remember on our first date, he was talking to me and his phone like buzzed or whatever, and he put it upside down. And I didn't even think anything of it. But then as he was talking to me, he stopped mid-sentence. He was like, I'm just letting you know I put my phone upside down because I don't want to be distracted in the conversation. I'm not doing anything. It's just that I don't want this to distract, And I was like, oh, okay, so he got some brownie points. But like in that situation, it could have been a trigger. But I'm glad that this man recognized that it could have been and was willing to deal with the baggage. And so, y'all, single ladies and guys, whoever's listening, give yourself grace in that area. But I'm not saying don't do your due diligence of, unpacking the baggage and healing, but also give yourself grace when it comes to you being triggered and remembering things that had happened to you in the past. So that's it. That's, a little thing that I wanted to sneak in there before I get down to the nitty gritty of how I almost died. Okay. So boom. A couple years ago. Okay. Let me backtrack because I feel like I'm all over the place. Y'all, I do not brainstorm these podcasts. I just go off a straight memory. I do not feel like right now bullet points, doing all the things. I just want to be able to tell the story. And because I do that, I know that sometimes I sound like I'm all over the place. And that's because I am. But I pray before I do these things. So if the Lord want me to say, it's going to come out my mouth because I asked the Lord use my mouth. Okay. And period. Okay. So anyways, I feel like, I'm not going to say I feel like, back in the day, I always heard of people attending churches and they seem like people act up in church. And when I say act up, like slithering around the floor like snakes, people getting deliverance, falling out. Like I heard of these things, but I never saw it. I mean, I've seen people slain in the spirit. I've seen, people shouting and running around the church, but I have never seen a captive being set free. Okay. And so, this was new to me. I know that years prior, I went through a level of deliverance and didn't really know what that looked like. And it was me more so being, having deliverance outside of a relationship that I had been in. And it was very traumatizing. And I remember, and it wasn't like anything that I know now, but it was more so like I could feel a release. There was, of course, a bunch of crying, uncontrollable crying, and, shouting to the Lord and, thanking God for taking me out of what I was in, but not necessarily of what I know now. And so, baby, it was a shocker to see. Like, I've seen other people go through deliverance, but seeing my sister. Okay, I'm not going to tell her story. I'm going to have her come on here to tell her story. But my sister was going through a season, not a day, a season. Like when I say season, like an era. Like it was months and months of going through deliverance. And good for her, because I'm glad that she got her life right. Because, baby, the youngest child, they be tripping, okay? And it's partially my fault because since I'm the oldest, I'm the second parent. So it's my fault too. So anyways, my sister was going through deliverance, and we called Prof over. She's one of the pastors of our church, and we called, I think, one or two other people to the house to assist in this deliverance process, because in this process, my sister was not able to really control her body. There was a lot of jerking around. If you're familiar with deliverance, there are movements that can happen. But basically, there was an open door, and she was not able to control her body. There was other things that was going on, but I'm not going to get into this. And I was aware of what deliverance was. But in this season of my life, I'm not going to say I don't think. I know that I was not where I was supposed to be in my relationship with Christ. I think I was, not that I was mad with the Lord, but maybe frustrated, irritated, because I think not too long before that, I had just gotten out of a relationship that I thought that God ordained. I felt like this man was my husband. And so I was angry. I found myself entertaining men that I had no business, like all over the place, y'all. I think this was also during like COVID-ish times too. Yeah, COVID did some things to the people, okay? They was tripping, I was tripping, but I'm back on track, amen? That's all that matters. But let's get back to the story. So Tayana was going through a period of deliverance. We called the people over. We are going through this. So they are telling us that there's things that we need to do in order to, maintain the deliverance or maintain her life, because there's a bunch of things that she had in her room, like items, books, things that she used for witchcraft, stuff like that. So we went through this process of burning things that were, that was hindering her. I'm trying to word this right, y'all. And so I remember I was hitting up one of my homegirls, and she told me, take communion. Like, remember to take communion, so you guys won't get backlash. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, communion is the best form of medication, period. Period. Like, we know that Jesus' body was broken and his blood was shed for every sin, disease, iniquity, all of that, nailed to the cross. So communion is medication. So if you didn't know that, use it. Medication, y'all. I'm not saying that you should not take your other medication that is being given by your doctor. I'm saying in conjunction with that, take communion. I am not a true therapist, so do not try to be coming over here trying to sue me talking about Nope, I ain't do that. But anyways, back to the story. Homegirl tells me, take communion. So we are doing the fire pit thing, and I go in the house. I come out, and I see that my sister is manifesting. And as she's doing that, I feel a sense in my spirit to push her closer to the fire. It was kind of like whatever demon she was struggling with was afraid of the fire. And so I pushed her close, not enough to burn her because I ain't crazy, but enough for the demon to be burned, okay? So I pushed her closer to the fire and prayed, and whatever it was came out. So we were good, fine and dandy. That was at night, one night. The next day, I work from home, and I am diligently working, and then all of a sudden, my stomach starts to hurt. I'm like, that's strange. So y'all might think this is TMI, but I'm telling the story. I go to the bathroom. And so I'm like, bro, like doing a self-check, because if you are lactose intolerant and you're having stomach issues, usually you do a self-check like, bro, what did I eat? Like, this is tearing my stomach up, got the BGs. So I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, I ain't eat nothing. I did good. I don't know why, maybe it was the coffee. I don't know. So, I do what I do. I go back to work. And then like 5 minutes later, stomach is hurting again. I rush back to the bathroom. And all of a sudden, I feel hot. Like my skin is super hot. And I'm like, okay, this is strange. I'm like, okay. And at this point, it's the end of the day. So I kind of fake it like I'm working, and I get in the bed. Like, I'm like, I can't deal with this. And it's like every 3 minutes, I'm going back and forth to the bathroom. Like literally, there is nothing in me. I'm drinking water, going back in the bathroom. Like, oh my gosh. And I am one, not take medicine unless it's communion. And 2, I don't like to complain or go to the hospital. But I am like trying to G it out, thug it out. I'm like, I'll be all right. So I'm like, something is off. And I could feel like something in my body was like, I don't know what the word, like kind of like contractions. I could feel like something in my body was contracting, but not like my uterus, but more so like intestinal. So I'm like, this isn't right. So I call my mom, and I'm like, hey mom, I'm probably going to need you to take Caleb to school in the morning because I'm not feeling good. And she's like, all right, cool. And so I noticed that I didn't have anything else in me but the blood in my body. And I'm going to just leave it at that, because at this point, that is all that's coming out of me now. So I'm freaking out. I should have prefaced this at the beginning of the story to say that this is viewer discretion advised, or listener discretion advised. Listener discretion advised. This is a lot of very descriptive storytelling. So please log out if you don't want to hear it. But at this point, you guys have already heard some stuff, so continue to listen. Anyways, probably 5 minutes later, I call my mom back, and I'm like, Mom, I need you to pick me up now. I said, please. I was like, please pray. And if you know my mama, one thing she gonna do is pray. Okay. So she prays, and she's on her way to come. Caleb is sleeping. It was really late at night. And so I'm trying to get him together, his school stuff together. And I'm like, I need you to drop me off at the emergency room and then, get Caleb in the bed so he, and I tell her what to do for school and stuff like that. So, I go to the emergency room and I'm still having the issues going back and forth to the bathroom. They are asking me all kinds of questions. They're doing tests. They do, what is it called? An ultrasound. And they're like, well, we don't see anything wrong. We don't know what's happening. So they said, we can get you an appointment with a specialist tomorrow. So I'm like, all right, bet. So I leave the emergency room still sick. They ain't do nothing for me. And I go see the specialist in the morning. And mind you, the whole entire night, I'm still dealing with the same thing. So I go see the specialist and they're like doing, examination or whatever. They're telling me what's going on. And they say, well, we really don't know what's happening, but we recommend you doing a colonoscopy. And they're telling me, like, worst case scenario, it's this, could be cancer, it could be food poisoning, but we don't know. Baby, I've had food poisoning before, and this ain't it. I've had E. coli before, and this ain't it. And so I was like, okay, y'all just don't know what's happening. And so when they telling me like worst case scenario, I'm like, Jesus help me. Like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I can't leave my child. He's young. Thinking about I need to get my affairs in order. Like all the thoughts that was running in my head. And so, I don't know what happened. I think I kept to myself because I'm deathly sick. I tell my supervisors, this is what's going on. I can't work. The next day I go in and they are telling me, we can schedule you for a colonoscopy, but the next one isn't until it was like a month and a half after. And so I'm like, dang, they was like, but it seems like you really want to get this done and you really need this done. So we're going to put you on the waiting list. So in the event that someone cancels their appointment, we'll stick you in there. So I'm like, all right, bet. So I'm going through this process where I don't even know what to say to God because at this point, how old was I? It might have been my Jesus year. I might have been 33, I think, maybe. But I'm like talking to the Lord, like, what is happening? I don't know what's going on. It felt like something foreign was in my body, like something that wasn't supposed to be there was in my body and was making it do what it was doing. And it was like every few minutes I could feel my intestines contract. It was the strangest feeling. I didn't know what was happening. And so I'm praying. My mom is praying. And so I think homegirl Roxy hit me up and I let her know. I was like, hey, I'm really, really sick. I don't know what's happening. And I'm telling her, what we did for my youngest sister and, and then all of a sudden I got sick. Like I wasn't correlating the two at all, even though I had already talked to her and she told me to take communion because of backlash. I wasn't putting the two together. And so she was like, when I told her everything, the first thing she said was, did you take communion? And I said, girl, I forgot. She was like, girl, this could be backlash. Take the communion. So I'm like, all right. So we get the family together. And I'm talking, well, not my middle sister wasn't there. But my mom, my dad, Tayana, Caleb, myself, we all at the table. We got crackers and cranberry juice because we don't have grapefruit. We don't have grape juice. And my mom is praying. I'm like praying in my head because I can barely stand. Like I can't walk, y'all. This whole time, it's like I'm hunched over because I'm in so much pain. So she prays. We take the communion. We do the whole thing, and instantly healed. Instantly. And even like it was kind of like how how you have food poisoning and you feel better. It's like in your belly feels like it. You feel like you feel better, but you feel as if you still cannot eat regular food because you just went through trauma in your body. That's how I was kind of feeling. But I felt like a relief, like my stomach was no longer contracting. I felt like a relief. But after we took the communion, the next day, 100% feeling good, feeling better. And I know y'all on this thing listening right now talking about amen. Ain't God good? Because he is, y'all. Because he is good. And I feel like we be talking and we be listening to people in church. But until you experience that stuff for yourself, it's like, I can never not believe. Never not. Nobody can tell me that Christianity is a white man's religion. Nobody could ever tell me that God is not real. Nobody could tell me that because of what I experienced. That I went through, I was basically at death's doors, feeling something that wasn't supposed to be in my body. And I take communion. That's why when them jokers told me that communion was not necessary for us to take, I was like, baby, what? Because I already knew what I went through. I knew that. And when I say jokers, we're talking about the cult, the first 2 episodes of season 3. If you guys have not listened to it, go back and listen to it. But when they told me about not taking communion, I knew it was a lie because I knew what I experienced. So yes, that is my story on how I thought I was about to transition to be with the Lord, but how he delivered me out of, delivered me from the sickness. And it's crazy because I was talking to my brother Jay. He is my sister's husband, just in case you guys, wondering who Jay is. I was talking to him and he said he has no recollection of what had happened. And I think because this happened over a period of like 3 or 4 days, that maybe I wasn't talking to nobody, y'all. I was sick. Ain't nobody was trying to talk to y'all. I was not myself. So he said he had no recollection of this. And so I basically made this episode so he could hear the entire story. But yeah, y'all, I thought I was about to transition to be with the Lord. And I'm so thankful and so glad that he loves me enough to, 1, give me the tools to take, but 2, to continue to love me, because even after that, I still was, with all the shenanigans, and he still decides to snatch me up out of that stuff with the cult. So I'm just so thankful. So I also hope that this testimony is encouraging to someone else, because in Revelation, it does talk about that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And so when you hear someone else going through something and that you yourself is going through something, that should be a word of encouragement for you, because if God could do it for me, I know that he can do it for you. 100%, absolutely, he could do it for you. So yes, so if you are going through something, 1, pray. 2, take communion. Of course, there's other things that you can do, but take communion, and remind yourselves of past victories, because this is just something else that's going into the book. God has already done so many. I almost drowned when I was like 6 years old. Like, I was under the water, didn't know how to swim. And my mama, who also didn't know how to swim, jumped in the water after me. So Like, just thinking about all the things that I should have died. I was in a car where my boyfriend was driving drunk and racing somebody else. I should have died. There has been plenty of times where I should have died and God snatched me on out. And so I'm just grateful. But again, this is something else just to add to the book of God's faithfulness and his love and his kindness towards me. And if he could do it for me, he can do it for you. And that is it. And that is all. I'm trying to figure out what I want to talk about in future episodes. So if you guys have any ideas of what you want me to talk about. Oh yeah, I did say I want to talk about holiness. We're going to talk about holiness because the men's in the church need to be holy. Women's too, but I deal with men. So I'm going to say the men in the church, they be talking about they want a wife, but they don't want to do the things to have a wife, a godly wife. So we'll talk about that on the next episode, probably, maybe, if I don't have something else that I want to talk about. So anyways, I love y'all. You guys have a lovely evening, morning, whatever you are listening to the episode. All right. Bye-bye.